All right, today we're diving into a really fascinating psychological bias. It's called the third-person effect. It's that feeling we all get when we think media messages are really meant for other people and not so much for us.
So let me ask you something. Have you ever watched a commercial or maybe scrolled past a political ad and just kind of thought to yourself, yeah, nice try. That stuff doesn't work on me.
And then, maybe in the very next thought, you find yourself worrying about how that exact same ad could totally influence your neighbor or your cousin or just, the average person out there. If this sounds familiar, you're definitely not alone.
Well, this whole feeling, the sense that you're the savvy, smart media consumer while everyone else is maybe a little more gullible, that actually has a name. It's a well-documented psychological phenomenon, the third-person effect.
So what is it? Put simply, the third-person effect is our built-in tendency to overestimate how much mass communication influences other people while at the same time underestimating its effect on ourselves. We see a message and we think, oh, that'll affect them, the so-called third persons, but not us.
The term itself was officially coined by a sociologist named Phillips Davison. But his journey to defining this whole thing actually started decades earlier, and it was sparked by some really unique observations out in the real world.
And the story of its discovery is just as fascinating as the effect itself. See, this wasn't found in some sterile lab. It was discovered out in the messy, real worlds of war and journalism.
Okay, so Davison's first clue came right after World War II. He was studying a Japanese propaganda campaign aimed at Black American soldiers over on Iwo Jima. Now, the leaflets had zero effect on the soldiers themselves, but the American officers were so worried that they would have an effect that they actually pulled the unit back from the front lines. They thought others were susceptible. Fast forward a few years, and Davison's interviewing West German journalists who pretty much all say the same thing. Oh, editorials don't really influence people like us, but they definitely sway the ordinary reader. After seeing this pattern pop up again and again, he finally put it all together and published his hypothesis back in 1983.
And really, this quote from those journalists, that's the third-person effect in a nutshell. It's the core belief that I am discerning and smart, but they, the other guys, are easily influenced.
So, the big question is, why is this way of thinking so incredibly common? Well, it turns out it's rooted in some really fundamental parts of our psychology, and a lot of it is just about protecting our own ego.
There are two main drivers at play here. First up is self-enhancement. Let's be honest, it just feels good to think we're too smart or too self-aware to be manipulated by some message, right? It's a nice little ego boost. The second driver is something called social distance. The further away someone seems from our own group, whether that's based on age, location, or beliefs, the more likely we are to just assume that they're more vulnerable to persuasion than we are.
This also ties into something called attribution theory. We do this all the time. It's when we blame our own mistakes on the situation, but we blame other people's mistakes on their personality. For example, if I'm late, it's because the traffic was a nightmare. If someone else is late, it's because they're lazy or disorganized. It's the same with media. We believe we see through an ad because we're smart and we get the situation, but others fall for it because, well, they're just less critical. For them, it's about their disposition.
Now, this isn't just some quirky mental habit. This perception, this idea that everyone else is being brainwashed, it has a very real and pretty significant behavioral consequence. Believing that all those vulnerable others out there are being negatively influenced by media messages, well, it leads people to feel that something really has to be done to protect them.
And that something is very often censorship. Study after study has shown a direct link between a strong third-person perception and the desire to censor content. The logic is always, look, I'm not bothered by this, but we need to ban it to protect other people. And you see this thinking applied to everything from violent or misogynistic rap lyrics to pornography to TV violence to ads for cigarettes and alcohol. It's always about protecting them, not me.
And of course, this is totally evolved for the internet age. Researchers now even call it the web third-person effect, or WTPE for short, because our online world has all these new, interesting ways of triggering this very same bias.
Think about it. Online, you've got all these triggers that can just amplify the effect. A high view count, a huge number of shares on social media, or even just seeing that thousands of other people are online right now. All of it can make us think, wow, this message must be influencing a lot of people.
But the story doesn't stop there, because in certain situations, this entire effect has a complete 180. It completely flips on its head, and all of a sudden we start to believe that we're the ones who are the most affected.
And the key here is how desirable we find the message. When we see a message that we perceive as positive or intelligent,
or just good, the bias flips. So for messages we think are negative, like propaganda, we get the classic third-person effect. It affects others more. But for positive messages, like a public health campaign, we get what's called the first-person effect. You know what? That actually affects me more than other people. And it's driven by that exact same self-enhancement motive. We want to be seen as the kind of person who is influenced by good things.
And you see this play out in studies all the time. People consistently report that they're more personally influenced than others by things like anti-smoking PSAs, or warnings against drunk driving, or ads that support a good cause. Suddenly, we are more than willing to admit that, yeah, we're the ones being influenced.
So the next time you see a piece of content go viral, and you find yourself thinking, that won't work on me, but other people are definitely going to fall for it, just take a second to pause. You're witnessing a powerful and very human bias in action. And the real question is, now that you're aware of it, what changes?